Hello ladies and gentlemen, PlayAsia supplied me with this copy of this game, so if you want to support me and the channel, use the link in the description to go and buy something, and there's also a coupon code you can use to save a couple of bucks off your order. You'll be helping me out and hopefully you'll be buying something good. Thanks for your support, enjoy the show. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and I'm here checking out Deadly Premonition Origins. Or at least partially, because I tried to do a video on this and I failed. I have had terrible luck recently with picking titles that, well, frankly want to work. Like, as in, don't fall apart at the slightest convenience. And I know this is Deadly Premonition, i.e. the game that was known for being so technically dreadful on every platform that it ever came out on. But I was hoping that the release on the Switch would at least fix some of that, right? But as far as I'm aware, all it's done is made some of the problems that were there worse and create some entirely new ones. With that said, let's talk about the game. It is a detective-style game with a bit of an open world and a bit of like Resident Evil-y combat to it, but a lot clunkier. And the idea is you are a cop sent to investigate a murder which appears to be part of a series of murders, who occasionally goes insane, hallucinates monsters, and talks to himself.
That's where she was killed.
This is all true. I don't know how this guy got on the police force, let alone the FBI.
I don't know yet.
And you have to go around the town talking to people, trying to find out what happened to the girl, and there are also things like side quests and activities to do, but the main story is basically going and seeing what happened to the girl. As you can see by the save file, I got about 3.5 hours in, and that's where I gave up. More or less. Like, there's a reason for that, and we'll get to it, but one of those reasons is not the voice acting or the story presentation, because it's actually done relatively well. I'll give them a fair amount of credit for at least making these characters interesting. Their voice acting is better done than a fair few games I've played recently. It doesn't feel entirely over the top in some places, although there are definitely lines that stick out like sore thumbs from time to time. And I will admit that I was at least partially interested in the mystery before I dropped off the game, because, well, it is actually pretty interesting. It all takes place in this town, Greenvale, was it? I know it comes up on screen several times during this video, so it's not that big of a deal. And there are multiple ways to navigate it, but usually you'll be taking this car. This car handles like arse. As you can see, I am skidding around all over the place with it. And the thing is, whenever you are in a sort of high-intensity area, yes, the lightning actually stunned me a little bit there. When you're in a high frame rate area, it oversteers, and when you're in a low frame rate area, it understeers. And you're pretty much always in a low frame rate area because this game runs like shit. Especially when you are in the middle of town, there's buildings all around you, and you're just trying to drive and you can't because, well, honestly, the game is just incredibly slow at times. It is legitimately a pain in the ass to try and play this game, which seems to be the main issue with it. It's just a pain in the ass. The game's got a pretty basic set of systems. You have like a sort of Resident Evil style both combat and item system where you find items around the place. You can pick them up or put them into your personal toolbox, in which case you can go and pick them up later if you need them. And you also have the ability to like pull out weapons and use them to attack enemies, and the entire first half of this video, or hell, the first like 30 something minutes actually, so it's probably like 2/3, is going to be going through an area and doing some basic combat. There are also places you can go to increase your... You've got two main needs. You need to sleep and you need to eat. And you can go to diners to take care of one, and you can go to hotels to take care of the other. But both of them have been going down very slowly. I imagine this first chapter, or this first episode, I should say, is just trying to reel you in, so it might not get any worse than that. I should also point out that cars do have durability and fuel, but for some reason in this part of the story, that's just not a thing for this car. It does fix itself once you get out of this chapter though, but Well, I didn't get out. You'll see why later on. But nevertheless. So, I talked about how the game basically runs like arse. This car controls like arse. Controlling yourself on foot isn't that bad. It's actually alright. They make it really difficult to aim your gun, but that was almost definitely on purpose. I'm fine with that. That's absolutely fine with me. I did get a 10mm submachine gun, but I accidentally sent it to my toolbox and forgot to go get it because I'm an idiot. But yeah. Here's the other major problem with Deadly Premonition Origins on Switch. The sound will dribble away. Now, you might not understand what I mean when I say that, and as we go through this video, you'll actually be able to see this being demonstrated. So, what happens is you're playing the game, everything sounds fine. You've got music, you've got sound effects, and you've got voices. Everything works okay. Then anywhere up to 15 to 30 minutes in, you'll notice something starts to go missing. You'll notice that a sound effect here and there is missing. You'll notice that maybe the music starts to stutter. You might notice that some voice lines will be voiced and some voice lines won't be voiced in the same conversation. There are conversations in the game where it's not voiced, but which just makes this problem even worse when you think about it. But yeah, you'll be going through a conversation and only hearing half the voice lines. About 20 to 30 minutes in, you'll be getting 2 of these at once, and then after the 30-minute mark, all bets are off. Eventually, you won't be able to hear a damn thing. This happens consistently. This happens in the same way every time you boot the game up. Sometimes it's a little faster, sometimes it's a little slower. But by about the 45-minute mark, you will have no sound whatsoever until you restart the game.
Sorry, but I'm just doing my job.
I don't know why this is a thing, but it's crazy. I cannot believe it made it into a fully retail released game of a game that we knew was buggy as shit to begin with.
Did you hear that, Zach?
So,
then we should let every
I don't bloody know.
gamer out there join the SWAT team.
There are some other gameplay mechanics going on. There are medals hidden around the place to give you extra money. There are also trading cards you can get. I believe there's about 100 of them. They also give you extra money. There is... what else is there? There are some simple puzzles you have to go through. And you do have the ability to both run and crouch and hold your breath. Crouching and holding your breath will allow you to go right around enemies, even though that you are directly bumping into them. You will still be able to just go right by them. And there are things like quick time events. They're not very common, but when they do come up, they have this annoying tendency to kill you. Yeah. The actual gameplay is... if it wasn't so technically incompetent, it would actually be okay. Not to mention there are a couple of things that really piss me off. Like, when you're crouched, the camera rotates so bloody slowly. And this seems like something that doesn't really need to happen. There are a fair few things like this that seem like they don't really need to happen, and you will notice them in your journey throughout Deadly Premonition Origins. As far as I can tell, this is the same game that released on PS3, 360, and PC, so it's at least half decent at that. I don't know if there's any added content or anything along those lines. Nothing in the way of, like, special controls or anything like that. I tried playing the game portable as well as docked, and it had the same performance problems in both situations, so don't rely on docked to save you. I will say there are some things I like about the game, and they were really the only reasons that it kept me playing in the first place. I kind of like our main character. He's very weird, and I want to know more about him. He has nightmares about being trapped in a flower garden with 2 weird prepubescent boys telling him to do weird... I just realized the sentence is getting worse and worse the more I say it. Abort sentence. Abort sentence. But yes, he's got some weird nightmares going on. He has the tendency to talk to himself about, like, real-world things. This does take place in the real world. He brings mentions to classic 80s movies like Tremors, for example, as one of, like, a little conversation he can have with himself on a car ride, which at least keeps it from being relatively boring car ride, but still, all of the other things about it, the general bad performance of the game overall, when you're in a closed area like this area, it's actually okay because there's not enough going on to really stress it, but when you're out in the open and it slows to a crawl, making it really hard to actually do anything, it actually got me hit by a car, then yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the neck. And when you have to restart the game every 30 to 45 minutes in order to get all your sound back, that's even worse. I restarted my game like 4 times, and I was like, what? Why do I have to keep doing this? Why am I bothering with this? I'm just gonna put it down. And this is after 3.5, like 4 hours. There are some other things going on too. Now, the game does have a list of 50 side quests for you to do, and some of them will give you rewards. Like, for example, there was one side quest I managed to find where I helped out an owner of a shop with some goods, which turned out to be a really simple Sokoban puzzle, and they gave me a discount card for their shop, so I could save a little bit of money when I was going there, and they sell things like first aid kits and melee weapons, so you know, nothing wrong with stopping in there and seeing what they have to say, alright? Well, unfortunately I learned what some of the side quests are. You see, I went and looked up a guide because I was looking into how you actually meet certain people and stuff like that, just to get a little bit of an idea of what I was doing, because the game takes place, the time progresses linearly, it happens in days, but due to the way the episodes of each, the levels of each episode are set out, it makes it so that they each take place within a certain time frame. So one episode will start in the morning, and after a few sections of that episode, it'll end up being night. So there'll be some people you can only see at some times, and some people you can only see at other times, so I couldn't find that out. So I ended up going and having a look through the list of side quests they had available, and a bunch of them were ridiculous. The most obnoxious one that I remember off the top of my head was one where a lady is just standing out in the open at random, and she has a hot pot of cooking, and you need to take her home. There are only 50 side quests, and this side quest gets repeated 5 times. No thank you. No thank you, I'd rather go jump off a bridge. It's a shame, because you could imagine how in a game with clear horror references and stuff like that going on, because some of the imagery in this game is actually really good. Like, I do appreciate this game's horror atmosphere quite a bit, especially early on when you first crash your car and you need to make your way into town. I really appreciate the way they do some of that horror, but I mean, it just... when it comes down to having to take a lady home 5 times instead of giving me something a little bit more interesting to do with this world and this atmosphere, I find myself thinking, what's the fucking point? And it is at least charming. You can observe every individual object and you'll get the guy's opinion, and sometimes you'll even start talking to Zach, which is his headmate, although I'm kind of running on a rumor that you are Zach. He's talking to you directly, the player, but at the same time, Zach does actually seem to respond to him in certain situations, so I don't know if that's entirely accurate. But still, it's a very weird and very creepy game from time to time, but it's let down by the fact that you can crouch, hold your breath, and smudge up against a bloody enemy like you're trying to knock him to the side like a dog trying to get another dog away from his favorite bed or something like that. It's just kind of weird that way. There are some other minor activities you can do. There are multiple races hidden around the place, but since the police car in the game is not even remotely fun to drive, racing in this game is a massive pain in the neck. You can go fishing for random items, but, I mean, it's pretty simple to do. You just wait for the prompt to come up, you press it, and then you'll get a slot machine for the item that you win from it. There are other mini games like darts, but, I mean, with the other mini games that I played so far, I don't really see the point. And yeah. It's got some charm to it, and I will admit I'm interested, but I think I'd be better off going and watching a Let's Play of this game by someone I appreciate who will actually go through and show me everything special about it, instead of actually going through and playing it myself and having to suffer through restarts every half hour to get my sound back, the terrible performance even on Switch. And you would think they'd put a little bit more effort into it, because they announced both Deadly Premonition Origins, which is this version of the game for Switch, and its sequel on the same day. So you think they'd go through some effort to touch up this port, or at the very least do it from scratch. At least make sure that you can, you know, at least make sure that the game isn't a technical mess when it first launches. Or should I say third launches, because this is probably like the third version that's come out. But they didn't, and it's a pain in the ass to play, and I don't like it because of that, and that's why I'm incapable of recommending it for anything higher than the price of a cup of coffee, because I'm a lot more frustrated with it than I am enjoying it at this point. And as I said, I'd rather just go watch a Let's Play and see the special stuff about it there. Some people hate that line of thought, but there are some games where it really is true, man, and this is one of them. I can see why it's a cult classic, but at the same time it really doesn't fit the definition of classic for me. I'd love to see a port of this game where the performance isn't bloody shite, it's not actually bugged, and maybe remove some of the more annoying things, but yeah. This footage has got another half hour left to go, so I'm just going to let it play out. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.
Previously during the investigation.
The body was found in the... Agent Morgan. If you're want...
Agent York, we only have...
Zach, is there something here that you want to check out? Well, just do as you please. We can head to the forest later. Speaking of 80s movies, one jewel in the rough springs to mind. Deadly Spawn. Do you remember that one, Zach? Right. It was filmed pretty cheap, but still it was pretty good. So many delicious B-movie cliches. But I never got to see the sequel. The rental store didn't have it for some reason. They said the staff for the sequel was totally different from the original. I wonder how the sequel turned out. I think that one was back in '89, directed by Ron Underwood. Now that was a great role for Kevin Bacon. Masterpiece. Zach, that one had sequels like crazy. I remember there was a fourth one. I've only seen the first one, though.